Alright, boys and girls, today's lesson is lesson 1-3. Today we are going to work on rounding numbers. So what I have up here is I have a kind of a picture of a math board right here. The math boards we have are really big in the classroom. This is just a smaller version that we can work with in here. So first of all, I want you to think about, why do we sometimes round numbers? Think about that in your head. Okay, pause it, and I want you to write in your math journal, why do we sometimes round numbers? Okay, and when you're done writing, unpause it. Okay, well, hopefully you wrote down something along the lines of, we round to make numbers easier to use mentally or to estimate their size. That's really the reason why we round. Just make everything easier. Okay, we want to know what it's closer to. It doesn't give us an exact answer, but it kind of gives us an easier answer. Okay, next question. What do we do when we round? Okay, think about that. What do we do when we round? Pause it, write down a response in your math journal, and then unpause it. Okay, well, hopefully you answered the question of, what do we do when we round? Hopefully you said, we find the nearest tens, hundreds, or thousands, or even higher. In 4th grade, we don't go too much higher when it comes to rounding, at least in our lessons, but in the future, you may need to round to even bigger numbers. So that's what we do. We're just trying to find the nearest 10, hundreds, or thousands. And like I said earlier, a rounded number is basically an approximate value, an estimate, kind of something that's close, not exact. Will it be exact? Sometimes when you add a few things together that you rounded both of them, then yeah, sometimes you might get the exact answer. But when you're dealing with just one number and you're rounding it, no, it's not the exact, but it's pretty close. So on our math board here, I'm going to show you a number, okay? And then we're going to work on finding the nearest 10. As you can tell from this math board right here, that each of these lines of this array are 10. There's 10 dots in each. So there's 100 on here, because it's a 10 by 10. This would be a square in our drawings that we just learned recently. It would be a square, because a square means 100. So what I want to do is we're gonna find the nearest 10. Okay, so we want to do the number. We're gonna start with the number 37. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna write 3 quick tens. Remember, quick tens are just lines. 1, 2, 3 quick tens, and then I'm going to add 7 singles, or 7 circles. Remember, we circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'm going to kind of shrink this up and put it aside. And from this point, I'm going to add a couple more pictures. Okay, so bear with me a second. Alright, so I added a couple more pictures. What we're going to do is I'm going to find 3 options. First, we have 37 that we just did. That's the exact number. Now, when we're rounding to the nearest 10, we're either going to go to 30 or we're going to go 40. So I'm going to push the 37 aside for a second. I'm going to make this bigger. What we're going to do with this one, we're going to make this 30. Okay, so by making this 30, I'm just doing 3 quick tens. Okay, I'm going to shrink this down, move it aside, and pull up the next one, and I'm going to make this 40. Okay, 4 quick tens. 2, 3, 4. Now when you estimate, you need to figure out which one of these would make more sense when rounding 37 to either 40 or 30. So just take a look at it. If you look closely, you'll see that the circles we made, the 7 circles, are actually closer to 4 full lines or 4 quick tens than it is to 3 quick tens. Because if you notice, there's 7 circles. So that means you're closer to a 10 than what you are to a 0. That goes along with the whole thinking of, once you get to 5, you go up. If you're 4 below, you go down. The number 37, if we're trying to round to the nearest 10, push all the stuff out of the way. If we're trying to round to the nearest 10, we're either going to go to 40 or 30. If you did a number line, 1, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. 37 would fall right there, and that right there tells you it's closer to 40 than it is to all the way over to 30. Now, I recently learned about an island, the whole island. If that one island was the island of 30, and the other island was the island of 40, and you were in the water and you were swimming, and you were 37, are you closer to the island of 40 or the island of 30? And hopefully you all said, I'm going to swim to this island because it's just a little bit closer. So the next thing I want to do is I want to round to the nearest 100. We did tens. Tens is, I think, pretty easy. Hundreds is pretty easy too, and I think the more you learn rounding, it's always really easy. It just takes time to figure it out. So the number we're going to work on now is 246. Okay, remember when we do hundreds, we make the squares. So I'm going to zoom this in a little bit, and this will be a little bit tougher because it's such big numbers. But I'm going to make a square for 100, make a square for 200, and this isn't perfect, boys and girls, but I'm going to try to get somewhat close. I went a little too far there, so I'm going to erase this line. I was talking, and when I get talking, sometimes I don't stop. So I have 200, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 246. We're trying to round to the nearest 100. Okay, so we're either going to go down to 200 or we're going to go up to 300. Okay, so I'm going to shrink down our first number, 246. You're going to see how, wow, you're going to be like, wow, I really get this now. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And what I want to do is I'm going to draw 200. We'll make this the 200 one. Okay, I'll just write 200 on here. And 200 is just two squares. 1, 2. Okay, this one's done. I'll put it aside. We have 200 and we have 246. Obviously, the only other 100 we could possibly round it to would be 300. So I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the key is 5. The most important thing here is we're trying to find the 5. Okay, here's 246. Here's 200. Here's 300. You need to think about what is 246 closer to. Okay, and this is really tough because 246 is really, really close to the breaking point, the middle. Okay, so when rounding to a certain digit, and a certain place value, which is the hundreds place now, you always look at the next digit. Okay, if it's a 5 or more, you go up. So that 2 becomes a 3, so 300. If it's 4 or less, you go down to 200. Okay, so when looking at this is pretty tough, but the halfway point between 200 and 300 would be 250. So I'm going to push this away. I'm going to get this a little bigger. If you look, 250 would actually be the rest of these. If I did the rest of those, I would be at 250. If I got to 250, I would go up to 300. But because I never got there, you are actually closer to 200 by just 3 singles, 3 ones. So in this case, you would round to 200. So let me get rid of some of these. So the next thing I'm going to work on is the thousands place. Okay, we nailed the tens. We nailed the hundreds place. Ooh, Mr. Winkler needs to work on his spelling right now. Writing with a stylus is not easy for those of you who know how to write with a stylus. So that's why it looks sloppy. I don't normally write that sloppy. Maybe I do. I don't know. So next up is working with the thousands. All right. Remember to always keep in mind that no matter what we're doing, any number 3,250, if we're rounding to the nearest thousand, you don't really need to worry about these two digits. All you need to worry about is that digit. Okay? That one is less than 5, so it's 4 or less, so the 3 will stay the same, of course, and then everything after it's zeros. Okay? If that number were to be higher than 5 or higher, you would make everything 0, but you would bump up the 3 to a 4 to make it 4,000. Now I'm going to draw. It's tough on the math board. when you're talking thousands, because I don't really have a math board that big. So I'm going to kind of show you 3,250. Okay, remember these long ones are thousands. Okay, so 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 200, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we want to know if this is closer to 3,000 or if it is closer to 4,000. Okay, so this is 3,250. I'll write that above it. I'm going to move it out of the way just a little bit, okay, because I'm going to draw two more pictures. You're going to tell me which it's closer to. My options are 3,000 or 4,000. Okay? It's tough because we're going further off to the right, so it looks like this is closer to 4,000, but really these 5 lines would really fall. I should probably shrink them a little bit. I should probably make them, if I can shrink them. I really can't, but really these 5 lines are actually just 5 lines inside of a 10. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to kind of scribble this out. Okay, so by looking at this, it goes to show that this is where you need to be. You need to be at the 5 in order to go up. We're not there yet. Okay, we know we don't have this 10, and this 10. So we're going to round backwards. We're going to go down. Because that second digit's a 2, not second, the digit right after the one we're trying to round is a 2, that number 3 stays the same and everything becomes 0. If the number were 3,550, that 5 would tell you that the number needs to go up. So the 3 would turn into 4, and everything after it, all zeros. Okay, so if you have time, you can start working on the activity book pages 9 and 10, and we'll talk more in small group.